Welcome to the Travel Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Vandenberg. On our show, I interview and connect with leaders across travel, hospitality, and tourism. We talk leadership in our industry, what has shaped them, the successes, failures, and everything in between. Today, I'm speaking with Jason Brooks, restaurant industry veteran, professional speaker, author, and coach. The Travel Leader is brought to you by the Travel Leader Coach, a leadership coaching and content company. We help established, high-performing travel leaders and teams improve leadership competencies. Learn more at www.thetravelleadercoach.com. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for the invite to your show. Did you know that you were rated? I'm sure you know this, but this show rated one of the top hospitality podcasts out there. That is amazing. That is amazing. So great job to you and your team putting this together, and also to your amazing guest. And I'm honored to now be a part of that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, I believe it was, in the top 25 of the travel category for from the International Hospitality Institute.
That's it.
I was super thrilled and surprised to receive that recognition. So. Whoever is out there nominated me, and with my colleagues, I really appreciate it. It's really an honor for sure. We just got introduced not too long ago from a mutual friend in the industry, Susan Berry, with also a popular podcast from Top Floor. She's great. I got to meet her in person at the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference a few weeks ago. And she said, "You got to talk to Jason." So I immediately said, "Okay, anything Susan says, I trust." So we jumped right on the phone and made the connection. So I'm glad to be here today with you.
Yes, Susan is an amazing soul. Absolutely.
Yeah. So to get us started and give us some background, can you help by identifying what is the red thread throughout your hospitality career?
I would have to say that it's going to be different, but my red thread is actually finding my voice. And what I mean by that is that I stutter. Most people may not be able to tell it by now, but as a child, I could not finish one sentence without getting caught up on multiple words. My parents even enrolled me in special classes. They would come to my classroom as a kid, pull me out of class, and give me different techniques to help reduce it. And that was a challenge. Of course, I'd get all of the name calling, all that good stuff, but that pushed me to write very well, because it seemed like those classes didn't help, because I knew that I could write down exactly what I wanted to say freely. Mm-hmm. Getting into the restaurant business, I headed straight towards the dish pit. I could put my head down and just focus on doing dishes. But the hospitality industry is a people business. And the more I learned about the people business, the more that I wanted to grow. So as I started shifting around to different roles, I had to work on calling out orders, talking to my team, then eventually speaking with the customers. As I got better at what I did, I then moved up. I had to then direct my own team, speak on financials, read out on conference calls. And I knew that everything that I was doing and saying, I had to say it with intent. And that's what then made me become a better speaker. I did invest into Toastmasters to learn how to speak more. But in the restaurant industry, I saw that because I was so intentional at how I wanted to say things and what I wanted to say, that when I spoke with my team, I was minimizing my words, choosing the right ones, and it was getting maximum results. So then from general manager to multi-unit, director of ops, business consultant, finding my voice, how it resonated, how I was effective at using less words to get maximum impact. That was the red thread throughout my industry, even up to today.
Wow, what a journey. I didn't know that yet about you and that background. There's something both, of course, like literal and figurative in terms of that idea of finding your voice. What was important to you about that?
I'd say, first, this podcast is the first time I've ever admitted that. This is the very first time that anyone outside of my inner family knows that.
Wow.
So that it's what was important was being heard. We all have great ideas, whether we are behind a front desk, whether we are at a meeting, in a meeting. We all have great ideas. And sometimes there's a fear in there of saying what we're thinking, whether we stutter or whatever, speak a different language. It doesn't matter. But we have great ideas. We have to get past, and I knew I had to get past, of clamming up and not speaking, because the industry that we're in of hospitality is about connecting with people and making people's experience better. That was important because I had these ideas, and maybe time would go by and I'm like, if I would have just said X, Y, Z last week, maybe we wouldn't have this challenge now. So things like that, that's what really made it important to me. And then the second piece was speaking up for my team. Because as I got better, as I went through different ranks, you're not only speaking for yourself, you are speaking for your team. You are hearing their ideas, their thoughts, the things that they come up with. And then, of course, you give them the credit whenever it's time to give the credit, but you have to find that voice and know how to speak up, not only for yourself, but for your team as well.
Yeah. What it sounds like is this, you had something to share and this drive to contribute and to make an impact through your work. And you needed to overcome some obstacles, right, to be able to do that. I can also imagine that, when you struggle with speaking, you end up listening a lot to others and thinking, in terms of that intentionality, wow, they say a lot of nonsense, right? And I can imagine, I can see the connection between that intentionality. Like when I hone this skill and I'm able to do it well, I'm going to make it count and I'm going to make it worth it for people to do.
Correct. That's what I didn't understand what would happen. I mean, if we could only imagine, that's like one fearing a glass of water and jumping off of a cliff into the sea in the dark, going from one to the other. That's how I think through going from not being able to finish a sentence to being a keynote speaker in front of hundreds of people, and doing that for 45 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, or 3 days, 7 hours, and helping them change them or their business. So when I think about it that way, I'm like, okay, we as human beings, we can do a lot, especially, again, within our field of being hospitable to others, making that connection. The things that we fear these days, we can get over it. And we are all walking testaments to how we can do that. Yes,
absolutely. And this is a great example with you telling me about this right here, for sure. How would someone you work closely with describe you as a leader?
They would say that I am intentional, one. Two would probably be balanced. I think that they would say that I'm balanced. I definitely love to have fun. I like to have fun. I love to have fun. I like to focus on the development side. I like to learn about them as a person. I like to learn about them as their trait, and then where they want to go, where they are and where they want to go. And I like to be sure that within my time spent with them, that I cover all of those things and I keep a balance of those things. Do I always stay balanced? I'm sure many people will tell you that. Yeah, Jason can go down the business rabbit hole or down the coaching rabbit hole very easily and very deeply. But I think that they would say intentional and balanced.
Yeah. Can you, I mean, because balance means a lot of things to different people. Can you clarify a little bit more what balance means for you in terms of, your daily work and way of being?
Balance doesn't have to be for equal parts. It doesn't have to be 25% times 4. To me, balanced is understanding the environment that you're in, what's going on within that environment, because we are in a very high-paced, high-stressed environment. How do you balance that? You do have to roll with the wave. You do have to ride the wave, as they say these days. So you have to understand how to pick up, how to speed up, how to continue to ride the energy through the end of the shift, end of the day, end of the week. But you also have to understand how to slow down in order to speed up. How to slow the things down that becomes repeated issues throughout your shift or throughout your day, how to spot what that is, make the correction in order to then speed up to get to a prosperous place. So balance isn't just figuring out how can I make sure I cover these topics throughout my day for equal portions. It's understanding the energy that is around you, how to use that energy, and then also how to slow things down to see what's going on in order to get to that better place, that goal.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like also it's about, if the world is going like this in roller coaster, as a roller coaster, that as a person and your character and behavior, you're able to kind of keep a little bit of an even pace. There's a little bit of maybe emotional regulation in there, strength of character, resilience, things like that I think that you're probably describing come into play for sure.
One other part of the balance is who you surround yourself with. We have to know internally what our strengths are. We can work all day at knowing our weakness and trying to make it a strength, and then we're just actually using time that we could be in using our current strengths versus try to make the weakness a strength. That's how you lose time. How do you surround yourself with the people that have the strengths that you know is your weakness, and you're okay with having that weakness? That's another part of the balance act, right? You need to incorporate the people around you to help get the things done and be okay with not being perfect. That's where a lot of leaders struggle at. They're not okay with not being perfect. And then they turn their wheels and burn their wheels and use their energy at trying to improve things that isn't a how, it's a who. It's a who are you bringing on board to help make these things better.
Yeah. So that's perfect bridge to one of my questions. What are your strengths and weaknesses? And can you tell us how you in your career, maybe any anecdotes or stories about how you did that yourself?
I'm not giving up any more weaknesses on your podcast, Rachel. I've given up one already. No, no, but
strengths-wise, vulnerability here.
I'm about to start dropping tears. Okay, no. My unique strengths. I'd say that my unique strength, which I do think is really correct, is creating environments for professionals to be able to listen, learn, and accept feedback, especially in the hospitality setting. And I say that because we get a lot of visits at our motel, hotel, resort, bar, coffee shop. We get a lot of visits, whether it's from a regional CEO, CMO, customers, or inspectors. Okay. We get a lot of visits. Typically, whenever we get that visit, the first thing that happens is guard goes up. You have this fence that goes up because you are protecting you and your people. Mm-hmm. And one of my strengths is figuring out how to first make that guard be disengaged, how to de-escalate that situation to where they are now more open for feedback, more open to listen. Because there's times that we go to visit somewhere and everyone starts trying to point the blame to something else before they hear what you say. But our goal as the visitor is to be effective in that visit, use that time the best way, give the best feedback, and hoping that they pick up those golden nuggets. So one of my strengths is being able to break that wall down quickly. Pull the person, sounds strange, but pull the person out of themselves, become this third party as we walk their premises and take a view of their business as a different person than whom they were when they clocked in, and then be able to break each segment of that visit down into bite-sized pieces for them to really learn the feedback, be able to remember the feedback, and then act on it. So that's one of my unique strengths. I actually have a workshop for that. One of my weaknesses is there's times that I won't be extremely firm, that I won't be like just chop the axe down. That
or direct,
I feel,
right?
Or direct. Yes, I guess it's from that persuasive style of leadership. You know, we tend to ask more questions versus be too direct, because once I think within my style, if I'm too direct, I'm not giving them the opportunity to create their own plan A, B, and C, because they may tell me one thing, but I guarantee there's 2 or 3 things that's also bouncing around in their mind. If I just tell them the one thing, they're not going to think through the other 2 or 3. If I ask them the one thing as they're contemplating the one, there's 2 or 3 other nonverbal things that they don't say. And that's how I help set them up for them to be more successful, that when they're in battle, that they can have different options of what to do. So maybe I can be more direct, but I feel that if I do, I'm not giving them the edge to understand. What's your other options whenever you are on the field?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate to that. I tend I am a very direct person, but when it comes to feedback, sometimes I hold back from being more direct. And I think for it to sink in, sometimes that you do have to take more of that curiosity route to get to the bottom of things. But there's also times when in your leadership style, you do need to be more direct. And I definitely struggle with that at moments for sure. But back on the strength side of things, that's so important. Creating that idea of creating a culture of feedback, and that people realize that it's okay to receive both constructive feedback and positive feedback, and that's just part of how we grow and learn, for sure. Is something hugely important. Do you have an example of a situation of when you were able to kind of change that mindset about feedback?
Oh, that's several times. I wouldn't say that there's one example. It's many examples of when walking in. One of the first questions that I ask is, so why do you think I'm here? And then most would say, because I suck. like, and then I'm like, well, no, that's not why I'm here. But just depending on the visit, it boils down to getting them to understand that at times whenever I walk in, I'm the one that helps get that level 7 to a level 9.5. Or a level 6 to a level 8.5. And it's that you have that thing within you in order to be great. But somehow within this journey, we tend to lose some of the skills that we know has made us, or competencies, as you would like to say, that we know would make us great, and we need to revisit that. For example, when I work with multi-unit managers, they tend to, when they started before their role, they would be a general manager of whatever location. They have created all of these mini GMs to help run their business. They have all these checklists, whether it's on an iPad or a laptop or a clipboard, that they're able to go back and revisit and recheck and walk their team through and create these mini GMs all throughout their business in order to help make it run well so they can focus on the things that are important. But when we move to a multi-unit role, we start shooting from the hip. Most multi-unit managers never walk in with a clipboard. They think that they can just walk in and just start going back. Well, when I was a general manager, I used to do this. But you're not walking in with the clipboard. You're not walking in with that exact checklist of the 30 things that you want to make sure you do. You're not doing the research prior to pulling up on the property to understand exactly what's going on with the numbers. You just go into firefighting mode. Owners go through the same thing. The things that when they became a owner, they lost once they got out of the customer facing, because there's so many things that's on their mind. But that's whenever we should revert back to using checklist, to creating mini GMs, to having people help us to be better. That's when we should revert back to those things. But that's very common whenever I walk in and they don't understand why I'm here to help them. And then once we get past that part, they're like, okay, it's not because you're here to give me a bad grade, to give me a bad report, to tell me that I suck. No, this isn't Gordon Ramsay. I'm not going to slap ketchup all on the wall and flip tables. We are here to create this environment to help us think back to our early times of what made us successful as a person with people. And how do we apply that to the now? Because we tend to lose it once we start shifting roles.
Yeah. So I'm hearing three things, which is first, like you're coming in and you're giving them the big picture why you're there to, and what the purpose is of feedback and the longer term goal. Second, you said somewhere in there about the idea of that you have a belief in them and helping them believe in themselves to be able to achieve that goal and improve. And third, remembering and referring back to and helping assist with the tools that are going to help them to get there. Like
Rachel, you are good. You are good. That is a part of my not DISC profile, but my DISC approach to helping off-site visits become more effective. First, de-escalate with the D. I is to inform. S is to separate. And then C is to confirm that they understand why we are here. So yes, you are correct.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for giving us some more specific examples and how you thrive in that, creating that culture of feedback. So who are you at your core beyond titles and the roles you play? We're getting philosophical here.
Who am I at my core besides titles? I'd say a bridge. I'm a bridge. And a bridge, maybe it is just to learn something new. Maybe it is a bridge to learn something new. Maybe it's a bridge to come back to things that you already knew, but the cup runneth over, and the more information one gets, it kind of gets lost. Or maybe it's a bridge to a new connection. But I believe that the core of who I am, besides all the titles, is just a bridge. Because there's a lot of times that I hear, Jason, that's exactly what I believe, but you just said it in a way that made so much sense, that made that connection back to where they were already going, but they just had this little wiper wipe the window once or twice. Like, yes, that is exactly where I'm going.
Yeah, so providing some clarity as well and connection,
Correct.
like you mentioned. Yeah, that's huge. What stories have or experiences have shaped who you are today? You've already told one, but maybe you have some additional.
Yeah, see, I started off with the story. Working in the hospitality business, I think that we have stories. There's never just one story. That's kind of like one wave shapes a cliff or one wind shapes a tree. It's repeated waves from the same direction or repeated winds from the same direction that helps to form that tree or form that cliff. So to make my rock, cliff, tree even on both sides, I have stories from both great people and ones that were not so great. One of the great ones was a general manager at a multi-unit casual plus dining brand back in the early 2000s. The general manager was Mark, and he's one of the ones that helped shape me, because he actually was the mayor of 4,000 square feet. That guy knew everything. I mean, he knew every name. There's times that you ask a GM, hey, what's the name of that person right there? Like, I don't know. They've been here for like 3 weeks. I have no clue. Like, how do you not know the name of your people? But he knew not only their names, their kids' names, their hobbies. He knew what made them, when it hit the fan, what made them move, what made them stop. He knew everyone at the corporate office. He knew all the customers. He knew his numbers. He knew the environments. He knew he was the mayor of 4,000 square feet. And that's what made me really understand what that thing is that could either make us successful or make our job challenging. On the other hand, I was hired to be a culinary manager at a steak brand. And whenever you get hired, you tend to be hired and trained. They ship you off to Neverland, put you in a hotel, show you where the closest coffee shop is, and then you get to know your team and the closest bar too. And you get to learn your team, and you meet the GM and the managers. You go through your training and you start your training. So I started training at this steak brand, and they were known for a training location. So they had a rotation of training managers all week long. The training process was 8 weeks. When I got in there, they would tell me, hey, just do your training. You can go inside the office to get on the laptop to get your computer-based training. And then whenever you're done, you can you can come back out for. Just make sure you knock first. I'm like, okay. So it's a busy shift. I think that it was a Thursday night. It was definitely a Thursday night. It's a Thursday night busy shift. For some reason, half the dining room was closed, but they were still slammed. I'm going through training. Although I'm training for a kitchen manager, there's still front of house training that has to be done. Mm-hmm. So I get to the point to where now it's time to do my computer-based training. So I walk back to the office, knock 3 times. I listen, hear nothing. I go to open up the door. It seems like it's locked. I turn the knob a little bit more and I walk in, and then the manager is sniffing something off the counter. I'm like, oh, snap. Tries to cover it up. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I like grab my bag. I walk back out. I'm like, okay. So I close the door. I go to the closed part of the dining room. I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, all right, do I say nothing? Or do I call my boss that hired me because I don't want to be implemented? So I said, I'm a snitch. I'm not going to get caught. I'm not going to be the one that gets trouble. So I call my boss and I'm like, hey, just let you know what I saw. I don't know what it was. He said, well, that's unfortunate. So how about this? Go back to your hotel and then I'll talk to you in the morning. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I grab my bag, clock out. I go to my hotel, get back the next day, Friday morning. Right before walking in, I get to the parking lot. I'm sitting inside the parking lot. I call him in from my car. He says, yeah, Jason, I talked to the manager that was on duty last night. That was very unfortunate. I wish they hadn't done that. But it wasn't like they were putting shag carpet on the ceiling. And I was like, wait. What? So if they were putting shag carpet on the ceiling, this would have been bad. But being that they weren't hurting anyone, this is okay. So I guess you would imagine I didn't last there long. I think I was there for like another 10 weeks and then I left. I'm like, yeah, this is not the culture for me. But learning from that, those stories like that, from knowing that you can be the most effective mayor of 4,000 square feet, or you can just be worried about as long as someone's not putting shag carpet on a ceiling. Yeah. That really helped to shape, okay, what is the right thing to do, even if someone's not being hurt? What's the right thing to do?
Yeah. What it's that dichotomy between those two experiences. It's like two sides of the coin with standards and values, right? And I could see your eyes were closed almost as if you were visualizing this bad experience that you had. It seems like it had a pretty big impact in clarifying for you the importance of standards and values in your work.
But if you think about it, that's true with all of us. We tend to have more impressions on something negative that happens to us than positive. If we went to a laundromat and we opened up the dryer and we found a $20 bill, we would say, whoa, yes, I found 20. That's great. About 10 minutes later, that feeling would be gone. Let's say we went to the same laundromat, put our jeans in, and then we took the jeans out. And we knew we had a $20 bill inside our pocket and then lost it. We think about it all day, all night, and the next day. You are correct. Right. The negative impressions last longer, even though we think it's the same value. It lasts longer and shapes our emotion a lot longer than positive ones. Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely, I mean, I could see how the experience with the mayor of 4,000 square, was it 4,000? 400? 4,000
square feet.
Sorry. 400 square feet would be really small.
Coffee shop.
I mean, that also just speaks to how important it is to see role models doing things well and to aspire to those qualities and characteristics as well. I think having that standard of excellence, it also, as you began to tell the story about how he knew everybody's names and their children's names, etc., it reminded me of Ted Lasso. I just started watching Ted Lasso. Have you seen that show?
Oh, I have that in one of my keynote sessions. Ted Lasso, that series. Listeners, if you haven't checked out Ted Lasso and you want to be better at leading your people, check it out. It is the defining moment of democratic coaching and holistic coaching. He nails it every single time.
Yeah, I love it. And I just get this warm and fuzzy feeling every time I watch an episode. And I'm like, I want to be more like Ted.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah. Just the character, it also as a human, just being a good human, right? To the people around you. Anyways.
Wait. First, I think that his tactic is I make a better captain because I work on creating better people. I make a better goalie because I focus on creating better people. You can try to make a better position within your business, but when you create better people, you happen to get a better person plus a person that's better at their role too, and that's what he nails. Yes,
absolutely, and that is just the essence of leadership development, which I'm very fanatical about. So, very very relatable. So, moving on, can you describe a time when you have felt most alive or fulfilled?
Most alive or fulfilled, it's actually been very recent, and that is finishing my book. Yeah. Every Leader Needs Followers. First book I've written, 6-year project. I wrote the book because I wanted something that when I looked back on me, how could I, at the point when I started, I said, how can I help me the 5 years ago from me? A lot of times people within our industry run from their role because they feel like they're being changed. They feel like they can't be authentic. They're like, I don't want to be like my GM. She's boring. I don't want to be like that. That's why I'm going to get out of this industry and go do something else. And we don't understand that we can be successful without having to be exactly like someone else. We just need steps, keys, in order to be successful. So my book is called Every Leader Needs Followers, 10 Keys to Transform Restaurant Managers to Hospitality Leaders. And these keys, because I don't have chapters, I have keys. These keys actually can vary across any industry. They are the absolute basics. It starts with mastering your KPIs, owner-like orientation, delegating by creating mini GMs, engaging with one-on-ones, leading with the right mindset. That's the first 5 keys within this book. And when I wrote the book, I didn't want it to be just a memoir about Jason. I wanted it to be actionable and very tactile, because managers, leaders, owners have less time these days because they are locked into roles. I know for a fact they don't have time to read a 390-page book. They need to get right to the point, get right to it, and then how can I implement that? So each key is broken into 3 segments. The first segment is the main course, pun intended. It's the meat, it's the gut of that key. After the main course is the takeaway, pun intended. The takeaway is just a 3 to 5 chapter, 30,000 foot view of the main course. Whether you've read the main course already and you just want some highlights of, oh yeah, I forgot about that part, or you want to read just that part because you have even less time, check out the takeaway of the key. The last portion of every key is called the angle. the angle is actually quotes from CEO, COO, CMOs that I had the pleasure of working with that gave their spin on that key, or famous quotes I found online that relate to that key that just nail it. And being able to put this together in 6 years, to have it really be the essence of what I viewed within this industry, and know that each key has those takeaways, has those actionable items. That was definitely one of the most things that I felt like I have accomplished, that I'm like, I couldn't believe I got this done, and it's self-published. Do you know how hard it is, Rachel, to self-publish? I mean, yes, it can be easy, but man, it is tough. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. I love how it seems like you wrote a book to leave behind a legacy and give back to the people that are coming up in the ranks behind you. And you were very thoughtful about, what is it that I would have needed back then, and understanding the environment of the restaurant industry specifically, having those practical tools that you can just implement immediately. I mean, my family has a restaurant as part of our hotel, and I can tell you that when we opened, I could have used that. So I was much better at running the hotel side than the restaurant side. And I'm sure that your keys, and I'm looking forward, I will read the book. I haven't had a chance to yet, but I'm sure that it's applicable to so much more, as you said, across industries as well. So excited about that. So, moving on a little bit, when have you underestimated yourself?
All the time. And I think that the way I envision that word underestimate, the first thing that pops into my mind is imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome is what makes us underestimate ourselves. The imposter syndrome it's different versions of it. Some versions are like the first time you became a manager or an owner and someone said to you, "Yes, boss." And you get that little feeling that's in your stomach, like, oh man, that feels strange. And hopefully they don't know that I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Right. Hopefully they don't figure me out.
They don't figure me out. Or it's hearing that voice that's in the back of your head, like, you can't do that. Or this isn't right for you. Even thinking back to the very first time you got behind the wheel of a car and you started driving. Most of us, the first time, whether it was for driver's ed or just with our parents or with a friend, the first time that we put it in drive and we started hitting that steering wheel and the gas and the brake, or a stick shift and then the clutch, and then we put it in park, the first thing that ran across our mind was, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I am one of those people that's never going to drive. That's the imposter syndrome. But the thing is, we have to be okay with underestimating ourselves and having that imposter syndrome. It simply means we've done something that we haven't done before and we're growing. If you've never underestimated yourself ever, it probably means you've never grown. Not in any significant way. You have to have the feeling of, I am underestimating myself, to know I am in deeper waters. I am on a further path. This is a higher elevation, and it's okay. I need to make sure that I do it again and again and again and again until you know, okay, this is for me. Now you can accurately estimate what the next step should be versus underestimating it.
Yes, that's such a key point. That idea of you're just in learning mode, and it's okay to be in that mode and not to be perfect right out of the gates. And just like in your driving metaphor, you have to do it more and more and practice and repeat, rinse and repeat, and you will eventually get more comfortable and better at it and more secure in kind of putting that imposter syndrome aside.
I like the word repeat because one of my taglines is manage, lead, coach, repeat. And that's how you get better at being that leader. Manage because it is systems. It is a business. Lead with your people, with getting to know the industry, with all of the challenges and being able to paint that big picture. Coach, focus in on the individual. Get the one-on-ones right. Know how to give that feedback. Know how to help them get from point A to point B and forward and more, even when you're not in the building. And then repeat. Get back to the business side and keep it going over and over. And that's how you build that success.
Love it. Love it. So we're almost to the end of our session today, but I have one more question. What vision would you pursue if you had everything you needed to succeed right now?
Oh, that's the easy one. The vision that I would pursue if I had everything that I needed right now would be 3 months of coaching for every hospitality manager. 3 months for every single manager. When they get hired somewhere new, they get 3 months of one-on-one coaching. Can you imagine what our industry would be like if every manager got one-on-one coaching for their first 12 weeks, not just trained for the first 8, but 12 weeks of one-on-one coaching. And we tend to think coaching is done only from a third party to an executive. But coaching is a form of development and communication for everyone. If every manager got 3 months of coaching, oh my gosh.
We could change the world, right?
would change the world. Every owner listening right now is like, yes, actually, that is correct.
Yeah. Here. I'm here for it as a fellow coach. We definitely need more of that in our industry. It makes a huge impact for sure. Is there anything else you would like to share with our guests or our listeners today? Sorry.
You are guests too. You're guests and listeners.
Yes.
Welcome to the party. If you want to find out more about me, you can check me out at jasonebrooks.com. If you want to learn more about the book, Every Leader Needs Followers, it's on Amazon. The ebook, paperback and hardcover, and the audiobook will be out later this year. I love this industry. I love the journey. I love finding my voice. I love speaking up for those that don't have their voice yet. And I love to help people see the things and bridge that connection to get them to the place that they were already going, but may have been foggy, or just help with a new vehicle to get them there. But yeah, that's it.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jason. I've really enjoyed our conversation. And until next time, I'm Rachel Vandenberg, and this is The Travel Leader.